Easter Sunday. The air was clear and smelled like new white linen of the resurrection. Christ was risen. He had walked in hell for 3 days, and on the third day he had risen and was sitting at the right hand of God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. The two lines stretched from the steps of the church out to the street. The girls' line was neat. They looked like angels in their starched white dresses, each pair of hands holding a white prayer book and a rosary. The boys' line was uneven, fidgeting nervously. We pulled at our ties and tugged at the tight-fitting jackets. We did not hold our prayer books or rosaries in palmed hands. Around us, proud parents smiled at each other, waiting for the priest to open the doors. From time to time, a mother would move the line and straighten this or that on a nervous kid. Behind me, Horace whinnied into the clear Christian air. Bones snapped at him. One of the high school sodality girls, whose job it was to keep us in line, whacked him on the head. Christ will come to judge the living and the dead. I knew. What was your penance? Horace asked Lloyd. Ain't supposed to tell, Lloyd sneered. Bones got a whole rosary. Everybody laughed. Shh, the high school girl said. Hey, there's Florence. Florence was standing against the wall, sunning himself in the morning sun that was just now beginning to warm the cool morning air. He's going to hell, Rita whispered next to me, and Agnes agreed. The horse neighed nervously at the mention of hell. His large teeth chomped hard, and a white spittle formed around the edges of his mouth. The air smelled of fresh-cut hay. Up in the bell tower, the pigeons ducked and bobbed at each other and sang their soft cooing song. Christ was risen. He was in the holy chalice awaiting us. I heard Rita's confession, Abel bragged. You damn liar, Rita hissed back. Aha, black spot on your soul, Lloyd said, and shook his finger at her. Shh, the high school girl warned us. She hit Bones again. She hit him hard because I could hear her knuckles striking the bone of his skull and her exclamation when it hurt her. The door's opening, someone whispered. Father Burns stood at the entryway, smiling, surveying his flock. The parents returned his smile. They were pleased that he had done so well with us. I turned and looked at my father and mother and Ultima. Then the line started moving forward. Remember your instructions, the high school girl threatened us. Don't go drop God on the floor, Bones volunteered as he went by, and she whacked him again. We had been told to take the host carefully in our tongue and swallow it immediately. No part of the host must be lost from the time it left the chalice to the time it entered our mouths. Don't go bite on God, Horace whispered. Swallow him carefully, don't chew on him. I wondered how God must feel going into a horse's stinking mouth. Above us, the choir sang. The two lines moved without incident down the aisle, then filed into the front rows of the seats. Father Burns went up to the altar, and the altar bell rang and Mass began. All during the Mass I prayed. I thought back to yesterday's confession about the mixed feelings that the revealing of my thoughts had left in me. But I had told everything I thought was a sin. I had cleansed myself completely and prepared to take God into my body. Since the confession, I had talked only to Ultima and my mother. I had kept myself pure. On the altar, the priest began the ceremony of changing the bread into flesh and the wine into blood, the bought and bloody of risen Christ. Soon, he would be with me, in me, and he would answer all the questions I had to ask. The altar bell tinkled, and we knelt. We bowed our heads and with our right fists softly beat our hearts, saying we believed in the mystery taking place before our eyes. It's blood now, Abel whispered, when the priest raised the chalice and the wine, and his thin voice mixed mysteriously into the ringing altar bell. I peeped and saw the chalice raised high, into the cooing of the pigeons, into the mystery of the sky. Ugh! Horse spit on the floor. Blood. The blood of Lupito, the blood of Narciso, winding its way along the river, crying on the hills of the Llano. Florence said it's wine, and the priest drinks it because he's a wino, Lloyd said. Florence said he wouldn't eat God, Bones added. I looked again and saw the flat, round piece of bread the priest held up. The thin wafer was becoming God. It was becoming flesh. Bread made flesh. Meat, Bones growled. No, Bones, not like that, I nodded my head. Somehow I couldn't understand. The mystery was beginning to escape me. I shut my eyes tightly and prayed for forgiveness. It's time. What? It's time. The priest is waiting. Chingada. I opened my eyes and stood. My heart was pounding. Was I ready? The line filed towards the altar railing. We knelt clumsily at the railing and tucked our hands beneath the white cloth that stretched over the top. The priest was at the far end of the railing. The girls were getting the communion first. There was still time to pray. Oh my God, I am sorry for all my sins, because they displeased thee, Lord, who art all good and deserving. Shh, the high school girl said. We waited quietly. Then the priest came to our side. The girls were already filing back to their seats. The altar boy held the gold platter under each chin. The priest mumbled something in Latin and placed the host on the tongue. He moved fast. Ugh! Out of the corner of my eyes, I saw Bones jump up and push his finger into his mouth. The host had stuck to the roof of his mouth. He was jabbing God with his finger, trying to free him, choking on him. Then suddenly the priest was in front of me. I caught a glimpse of the small white wafer, the risen Christ, and then I closed my eyes and felt the host placed on my tongue. I received him gladly and swallowed him. At last, I flooded the sticky piece of bread with hot saliva and swallowed it. God, now I would know the answers. I bowed my head and waited for him to speak to me. Tony! Tony! Yes, I cried. Go on, go on. It was the kid poking me. The line's moving. Bones passed by me, still fingering his mouth. I was holding up the line, confusing them. I moved quickly to get back in step. We filed back in the pew and knelt. Lord, I whispered, still seeking God's voice. Dumbass, Ernie poked me. You got everybody mixed up. Damn, I nearly choked, Bones whimpered through the watery eyes. I closed my eyes and concentrated. I had just swallowed him. He must be in there. For a moment, on the altar railing, I thought I had felt his warmth. But then everything moved so fast. There wasn't time just to sit and discover him, like I could do when I sat on the creek bank and watched the golden carp swim in the sun-filtered waters. God, why did Lupito die? Why do you allow the evil of the Tremontinas? Why did you allow Narciso to be murdered when he was doing good? Why did you punish Florence? Why doesn't he believe? Will the golden carp rule? 1,000 questions pushed through my mind, but the voice within me did not answer. There was only silence. Perhaps I had not prepared right. I opened my eyes. On the altar, the priest was cleaning the chalice and the platters. The Mass was ending. The fleeting mystery was already vanishing. Did you feel anything? I urgently asked Lloyd and clutched his arm. I feel hungry, Lloyd answered. My own stomach rumbled from the morning fast, and I simply nodded. I glanced around, trying to find in someone's face or eyes the answer that had escaped me. There was nothing, only the restlessness to get home to breakfast. We were standing now. The priest was talking to us. He said something about being Christians now, and how it was our duty to remind our parents to contribute to the collection box every Sunday so that the new school building could be built and sisters could come to teach us. I called again to the God that was within me, but there was no answer, only emptiness. I turned and looked at the statue of the Virgin. She was smiling, her outstretched arms offering forgiveness to all.